everyone, welcome to Studio Classroom on the Air. This is the place to come when you want your English to improve. My name is Rebecca. Have you ever been in a situation in which you needed help? Well, I'm sure most of us would say yes. However, have you ever needed help from a stranger? That is, the only person you could depend on to help you was a stranger? Sounds a little scary, right? Well, in today's lesson called Kindness from a Stranger, we are going to learn about such an experience from one of our teachers, Teacher Manya. And here is something else that we are going to talk about, a small act that left a big mark. Well, friends, open up your magazines to today's lesson. It's time to get started. Let's go.
Kindness from a stranger. How a small act left a big mark. When I was a teenager, I got lost in a foreign country. I was in Berlin, Germany, on my month-long mission trip in Europe. My team and I had one night there to spend however we pleased. Most of my teammates decided to stay indoors and relax. But I did not want to pass up the chance to explore Berlin. I visited numerous major attractions around the city that night. When the exhaustion began to set in, I checked the time on my watch. I was surprised to see that it was 2 o'clock in the morning.
Well, today we have a very special treat. We have the author of today's lesson, Manya Kramer, right here in the studio with us. Welcome, Manya.
Thank you, Rebecca. It's great to be here.
Well, we are very happy that you're here, and we have a few questions that we would like to ask you about your experience in Berlin.
Okay.
So, Gabe, how does our lesson begin?
Okay, yeah, we do have some questions, of course, as we go through our lesson. Friends, we also have some great English words and phrases that we want you to learn as well. And Manya is going to help us with some of those, I'm sure. But we see here at the very beginning, after the title, Kindness from a Stranger, how a small act left a big mark. And before we continue on, what does that phrase mean, Rebecca, to leave a mark or leave a big mark?
Well, when something leaves a mark, that just means that it has a big impact, or it does something that makes a change of some sort.
Okay, so maybe a question that you could ask somebody is, who has left a big mark on your life? Who has left a big impression? They've changed your life in a big way. So we're going to learn about someone in Manya's life, someone, perhaps a stranger, as you could tell from the title, who left a big mark on her life. But we continue here. When I was a stranger, I got lost in
when she was a teenager.
Oh, sorry, a teenager.
Not a stranger.
You're right about that. Sorry, I was confusing those words, teenager and stranger. Were you a stranger in a foreign country, though, Manya?
Was I a stranger?
Yeah,
to somebody, I was a stranger. To myself, I was not.
Good, okay, excellent. She was a teenager in a foreign country. It was in Berlin, Germany, and she was on a month-long mission trip in Europe. And so we wanted to ask you, Manya, what does a mission trip entail, or what did your mission trip involve?
My mission trip involved working with a lot of the local organizations there. We specifically reached out to the homeless population there, and we helped them, just got to know them and spend time with them. We also worked with a lot of troubled youth and mostly spent time with them and shared the gospel with them.
Okay, excellent. And, you know, that's what a lot of short-term mission trips, sometimes this is a month-long one, so that's also considered short-term. And a lot of people spend time sharing about God or about His love with people. You said you help the homeless people. She also mentioned troubled youth. That is, young people that may be dealing with a lot of problems in their lives and need encouragement.
That's right. Now, why did you choose Germany?
Well, it wasn't, I didn't really pick Germany. It just so happened that my church was going to Germany, and the idea of going there really excited me.
Okay, well, that's great. Well, we continue on. You say, my team and I had one night there to spend however we pleased. So in other words, you could do anything that you wanted to do. You weren't on a schedule for that particular night, correct?
Yes.
All right, well, most of my teammates decided to stay indoors and relax. But you decided to do something different. What did you decide to do?
I decided to explore the city because I thought, what are the chances? I mean, it takes so much to get there. I did not want to waste my night being indoors.
Now, you used the phrase to pass up the chance. You did not want to pass up the chance to explore Berlin. Now, what do you mean by, to pass up the chance?
That means at that moment, I had the chance to explore Berlin, and I didn't want to give it up.
Okay. Well, that's great. And so what are some of the sites that you explored in Berlin?
Well, I saw the Berlin Wall. I saw Checkpoint Charlie. I saw a lot of churches and different monuments. Mostly a lot of historical monuments.
And this was the first time you had seen some of these sites, correct?
Yes.
Very cool.
Now, Rebecca, you used the word site, and our lesson also uses the word attraction. Manya said, I visited numerous major attractions. So sometimes the words sites and attractions can mean the same thing or be used in the same way. Around the city that night, and you wrote, when the exhaustion began to set in, I checked the time on my watch, and you were surprised that it was 2 a.m. Might I ask, what were you doing until 2 a.m? What was so interesting that you stayed out that late?
Okay, so I walked by, I was at the Berlin Wall, and behind the Berlin Wall, I saw a group of people watching the World Cup soccer game.
Oh.
It was a huge deal in Germany. And so I stuck around and watched with them, and then next thing I knew, it was 2 o'clock in the morning.
You must have been having so much fun.
Yes.
You know, sometimes when you're having fun, you lose track of time, and then you don't realize how late it is.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened to me.
Well, I like that you did not pass up this opportunity to see a lot of different attractions in Berlin. Could we say that this was kind of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for you?
Definitely. At that age, it certainly felt like it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
And that's a great phrase. We want to learn more about that phrase in the Info Cloud.
Welcome to Info Cloud. Today, let's talk about recognizing once-in-a-lifetime opportunities.
Now, as you probably guessed, these are things that occur once in your lifetime. That means opportunities that you probably won't get more than once.
There are a lot of things that only come once in a lifetime. Many people go to college, but having the chance to study abroad is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
It's also something we talk about with jobs. Big promotions or the chance to move to an overseas office are examples of this.
We can also use this to explain why we decide to make a decision to do something.
While I was on my vacation in Hawaii, I decided to try scuba diving. It just seemed like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
As a quick usage note, when you use the phrase once in a lifetime to modify a noun, you hyphenate the phrase once in a lifetime.
We also use the phrase to describe when something happens. This chance only comes along once in a lifetime. But here, we won't use hyphens.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Studio Classroom. We are in the middle of a very interesting lesson about kindness from a stranger. And of course, this is one of our teacher's very own personal stories, Teacher Manya. Now, we already learned that Teacher Manya is in Berlin. And of course, she is there because she's on a missions trip. Well, we have more to learn about this interesting story, so let's do that now.
Kindness from a stranger. As I walked to a subway station, I realized that it was my dad's birthday. This would be the first birthday I couldn't celebrate with him, because he passed away a few months earlier. Before I could begin reminiscing about my dad, I heard train wheels screeching to a halt. I dashed onto the train. At first, I was thankful to have made it onto the train. But that relief quickly turned to panic when I noticed that the train was headed in the wrong direction.
Okay, Manya, back to your lesson. Now, you realized that it was 2 o'clock in the morning. So what did you do? Well, the lesson says, as I walked to a subway station, I realized that it was my dad's birthday. Now, this would be the first birthday I couldn't celebrate with him because he passed away a few months earlier.
And you continue, you wrote, before I could begin reminiscing about my dad, I heard train wheels screeching to a halt. So, Manya, that word reminiscing, why did you use that word in our lesson?
Well, reminiscing means to remember, to think of a past memory in a very fond way. And so naturally, I think because it was my dad's birthday, I wanted to think of him and think of good memories. But then I didn't have the opportunity to do that at that moment.
Right, okay. So then this train came screeching to a halt. Could we say that perhaps you were preoccupied or distracted as the train approached?
Yes, and also what I didn't mention in the story was that I was running up the stairs.
Oh, okay.
So I'm thinking about my dad, and I'm running, and I see this train, and I thought, oh, I better get on.
And it's 2 o'clock in the morning.
And it's 2 o'clock in the morning.
And you're probably thinking, oh, I just need to get on a train because you need to get back, right?
Exactly.
It was late.
It was very late,
And
yes.
You're probably a little tired.
I was exhausted.
Especially after watching those people watching a soccer game, right?
Oh,
Yes.
right.
That was very draining.
Well, you say, I dashed onto the train. Now, why did you use the word dashed?
Because I thought I would miss it.
Oh.
So I ran as fast as I could onto the train.
That's right, friends. There's a lot of English words that kind of mean to do something in a hurry, right? You're hurrying somewhere, you're rushing somewhere. Manya dashed onto the train. At first, I was thankful to have made it onto the train, at first, at the beginning, but then what happened?
But that relief quickly turned to panic when I noticed that the train was headed in the wrong direction. Now, I really like this sentence pattern that you use. Relief quickly turned to panic. Now, what exactly does that mean, and why did you use that sentence pattern?
Well, I wanted to express how quickly things changed. I didn't mention this in the story, but I was holding a map.
Okay.
And I looked and I thought, oh, thank goodness I made it on. Then I look at the map and I go, oh, shoot, I'm going in the wrong direction. Oh, my goodness, what do I do?
So basically, at first, you felt relieved, like, oh, yes, I made it. And then all of a sudden, that relief turned into panic mode when you realized, oh, no, I'm not going the way that I want to go.
Yes.
And this is a great sentence pattern that you all can practice using when you want to express how quickly something goes from, or you feel one way, and then it changes to another feeling.
That's right. And we usually use this kind of phrase when talking about feelings, right? Relief, panic, perhaps someone's joy quickly turned to fear. Maybe you hear some news about something. Maybe you're really worried about somebody, and your worry turns to happiness or relief because you find out that your friend is okay. Okay, so there's many different situations where you could use that phrase. Think about a situation where you could use that phrase, something turns to something else.
So Manya, have you ever been lost before?
I have, but not in the same context.
Okay.
Usually if I've ever been lost, it's more in a very calm situation where I could just go and ask for help and then get back home safely.
And perhaps it's not at 2 in the morning, or maybe it's in a country where everybody speaks your language.
Exactly,
Right.
Okay.
exactly.
So this was definitely a new experience for you.
Yes.
Well, there's one other word we want to talk about in this sentence, and that is the word headed. Okay, this relief quickly turned to panic when I noticed that the train was headed in the wrong direction. And when you talk about the word headed, it just means that you start going somewhere.
That's right. So how else can you use that word, friends, if you're headed somewhere? Well, you've learned that phrase to head off, right? Or perhaps you're going to head out. And this weekend, I'm heading to Taichung to hang out with some friends. And actually, we're out of time right now. We're going to learn more with Manya tomorrow. But right now, it's time for us to head to see Dave Morton with today's SC Challenge, or SC Travel.
SC Travel.
Where's he going to go?
SC Travel, Berlin.
Berlin.
Guten Tag, everybody. Welcome back to SC Travel. I'm your host, David Morton, and this time we're taking a dive into Berlin, a city full of good food, big fun, and fascinating art. First, head out for brunch at one of Berlin's excellent cafes. Try to get a seat at Holman and Klee. You'll love it. Next, skip on over to the Museum Island on the Spree River. While you're there, be sure to check out the Berlin Cathedral. It's a miracle that this UNESCO World Heritage Site survived the Second World War. Speaking of wars, you should really check out the Berlin Wall. About 21 meters of the wall has remained unchanged as a memorial to a time when the city was divided. For contrast, check out the East Street Gallery, where the old wall has been turned into a massive public art gallery. By now, you're probably thinking, enough with the history lesson, feed me. Well, your wish is my command. Try schnitzel, a delicious staple of German cuisine, which is often served with savory potatoes. And if you're a sausage fan like me, you gotta try the bratwurst, especially the Nuremberg bratwurst. But if you want to sample one of Germany's most famous traditional dishes, try the Sauerbraten. It's typically a deliciously marinated pork roast served with sauerkraut and dumplings. After such a heavy meal, you'll want to walk off those calories. So, go down and check out Berlin's vibrant street performer scene. There is really so much to see in Berlin. It's a colorful and cultural city. But for now, we must say bis bald. See you next time on SC Travel.
Oh no, just when things seemed to be going right, things turned out to not be going so well. Teacher Manya hopped on the train, but the train is going the wrong direction. She is lost in Berlin all by herself. What's going to happen next? Well, friends, you're going to have to join us tomorrow as we continue the story right here on Studio Classroom.